Good evening. I hope there's some people who can join me live tonight for my Principles of Good Health series of weekly Facebook Lives. It's the last Tuesday in September 2020. I will be taking a holiday for 2 weeks, so my next Facebook Live will be on Tuesday the 20th of October. As I say every week, if you've got an interest in certain topics, anything you'd like me to cover, please do let me know at any time. Just post comments in the group. This group is for your benefit, things you'd like me to cover. So do just let me know and I'll do my best to cover whatever you want to say. Just a quick word to say that tomorrow is the last day of my promotion for my course about relief from IBS. So it's on a £20 promotion through September. So do take a look at that and sign up for that. Hopefully you had the newsletter about that as well. If you don't get my newsletters, an email, and you'd like to be on my list, just drop me a note or DM me or say something in this group. My email address is caroline@peytonprinciples.com if you'd like to be on my email list and you're not already, where I post out additional information. So tonight I've said let's talk about cholesterol. Cholesterol gets a really bad rap, so I just wanted to give you straightforward information, like I always do, about cholesterol, about why we need it, what it does in the body. As I said, it gets a really, really bad rap and unjustified in my view, and hopefully this will give you some information about why it can be unjustified. My views, not just my views, about cholesterol, and how to keep healthy cholesterol levels in the body. So cholesterol, it's a waxy substance and it is vital to life. It's essential to our health. It's made in the body. We tend to think about cholesterol being too high and changing our diet, and we tend to think about fats, and I'll come on to dispel some of that information about why cholesterol may be high and explain about the best ways to manage cholesterol and to get healthy levels of cholesterol in the body. So this waxy substance, it's made in the liver, it's made in every cell in the body. It's that important to our health. Made in every cell in the body, made in the brain as well. And as I said, it is essential to our health. What does it actually do for us, this cholesterol? So I want to park for one moment this impact about heart disease and cholesterol building up on the arteries. So let's just focus for a moment about why cholesterol is essential to our health. First of all, you will find cholesterol in every cell membrane. So in every cell around the body, there's this dual phospholipid layer, and sandwiched in the middle of that outer layer, the membrane, is a layer of cholesterol. It has a really important role in the fluidity of cells and the flexibility of cells, and enabling nutrients to pass into cells, enabling waste to pass out of cells, and for cell signaling, and for just keeping the cells healthy, for receptors, hormones to lock onto our cells, keeping the cells alive and active and healthy. So every cell in the body requires cholesterol. Now, the brain has the highest proportion of cholesterol. It actually takes up 20% of the cholesterol. Now, one of the reasons for this, or the main reason for this, is all to do with the nervous system and the passing of neurons and neurotransmitters around the body, this electrical signaling that takes place around the body all the time. So just like with cell membranes, we need this cholesterol to enable the passage of messages going around the body through the central nervous system and into the brain. Absolutely essential for healthy brain function for the cholesterol to be there. And the cholesterol can't pass the blood-brain barrier. It's, as we said, it's made in the brain. So it's very, very important to be there. It's also important for the production of what we call steroid hormones. So these predominantly are the sex hormones. So for the production of testosterone, for the production of estrogen and progesterone, we need to have cholesterol in order to make these steroid hormones. And we also need it for the adrenal function as well. And finally, we cannot actually manufacture vitamin D in the body without cholesterol. So we focus on sunlight, which is absolutely critical, but sunlight, vitamin D is synthesized between sunlight and cholesterol in order to manufacture vitamin D in the body. We can get a little bit of vitamin D from our food, but as we know, that predominantly it comes from sunshine. But we need cholesterol in order to manufacture vitamin D. And in turn, vitamin D is used in our body to ensure that we have strong bones and teeth. It enables calcium to pass from the gut and into the bloodstream. And it's also absolutely critical for our immune function, for keeping a very healthy, regulated immune function, not just that it's strong, but that there's not an overreaction that can lead to autoimmune conditions. So cholesterol is, as you can see, is really, really critical for our health and vital for life. But we tend to get very, very hung up, or the medical community get very, very hung up about cholesterol levels in the body. And as we know that if we go for a blood test and our cholesterol level is taken, we may be told cholesterol levels are too high. We need to get our cholesterol levels down. And there's a very strong emphasis to put people on statins to lower the cholesterol levels. You may be interested to know that most of the advice that is taken by the GP community is taken by following NICE guidelines, National Institute of Clinical Excellence, but they don't actually set this level of 5. I think it's 5 is the main level that's considered to be right. It's very interesting to know, if you try and delve around, as to where this figure of 5 actually came from. How did we arrive at a figure of 5 as being the right number? That means anything over 5 is unhealthy and anything lower than 5 is good. And I'm not going to sit here and dwell about the literature and the studies that are out there. I would ask you to do your own research and make up your own informed opinion about what you feel about healthy cholesterol levels and where it should be. But with regards to heart disease, we do know that if you've got damaged arteries, then cholesterol is going to help, and it's needed to help form a plug to repair the damaged artery. So in that respect, cholesterol is actually a really good thing. If there was a damaged artery, cholesterol is needed to sort of damage that and plug up the damage on the artery. The problem arises is if cholesterol becomes oxidized. And you'll hear about oxidation and antioxidants, and I'll come on to talk about antioxidants in the diet. What we don't want is oxidation, because when cholesterol becomes oxidized, it becomes hardened. And that's where it starts to become a problem if it builds up on the artery wall. But you need to take a step back from this and question why your arteries are getting damaged in the first place. And I will briefly mention here, although this isn't the time to go into details on this short video that I'm doing, but I would rather focus with my clients on a different marker that's called homocysteine. Homocysteine is a really, really important marker for health overall. And there are blood tests that are available that I think are a far more important marker for cardiovascular disease, for healthy living, for healthy aging, for risks of Alzheimer's, there's a lot of research around this marker called homocysteine that we want to be low as possible, less than 10 in the body. I've seen clients with a marker of 25 and help them to get that homocysteine level down. And we do know from research that it's homocysteine that can cause the damage to the artery walls and in turn can cause the cholesterol to build up there. So let's not demonize cholesterol in itself when it's actually doing a vital role in potentially repairing the artery wall. But as I said, I would go away and do your own research, and if you want me to help you, find some other studies. And I think we know there's quite a divided view out there now with regards to cholesterol, and is it all bad and how low should it be? And with regards to statins themselves. Now, just to break it down a little bit further, when clients come to see me, I ask them to try and obtain information about the different markers with cholesterol. So we know we can measure total cholesterol levels, and hence this figure of 5 that tends to be set as the good, you know, anything above it is bad and anything below it is recommended. I will say here that my last test that I had done privately, my level was 6.3, and that didn't worry me. My level was 6.3. My view is that is okay, because I'm more interested in some of the other markers that come after it. So some of the other markers you will be very familiar with, I'm sure, are these things called LDL and HDL cholesterol. These are actually proteins. They're actually carriers of cholesterol around the body. So the LDL, that's considered to be bad cholesterol, this is actually carrying cholesterol into the arteries, and it's considered bad if the LDL is too high, because it's considered that we're carrying the LDL into the arteries and then it's going to get sort of stuck there, I think is the view that's taken. The other marker is HDL, and this is the one that's considered to be good. So this is the carrier of cholesterol away from the arteries and back to the liver, where it can be metabolized and broken down. So we want to see LDL being lower and LDL being higher. And one of the very important markers is the total versus HDL ratio. And that's a very, very important and useful marker. And the lower that the total versus HDL is, the better. And that's because if you don't have sufficient levels of HDL, then it is important. You know, if your total cholesterol level is getting higher and higher and higher, but it's mostly made up of LDL type of cholesterol and triglyceride fats. That's another part of the overall total cholesterol marker. It's actually a type of fat, triglyceride, but your HDL is low, then that's not going to be good ratios overall. We want to try and build up levels of HDL and not have too high levels of the LDL cholesterol. So I hope that makes it a bit of sense. And I insist myself, if I was going to the doctor, that I want that breakdown. I don't want to just hear that what my total level is. I want to know each of those individual markers. I'd want to know the total, I'd want to know LDL, I'd want to know HDL, I'd want to know triglycerides. And from there I can work out my own total to HDL ratio, but they may well give that marker to you. So what is driving high cholesterol? We're told, aren't we, that you may still believe that we need to watch cholesterol levels in food. There was a time when people wouldn't eat eggs because they contain significant or reasonable levels for the size of the food of cholesterol. I've had clients in the past who've been told that they need to watch prawns that they eat because they contain cholesterol. And of course, we're also told that we need to watch the amount of saturated fats that we consume in our diet. Now, just bear in mind that I mentioned at the start that the liver is the key driver, as our cells are, for the manufacture of cholesterol. So it sort of has less of an influence about cholesterol in food, that is not going to have a significant effect on your own cholesterol levels. It's what's being produced in the body itself. Saturated fat, of course, we don't, any of us want to have a significant level of saturated fat in the diet unless you're following a ketogenic diet. I will come back and talk about what I consider to be an overall healthy diet when we're thinking about cholesterol. But what is a key driver, this is going to surprise you possibly, but what is a key driver driving high levels of total cholesterol, driving higher levels of the bad LDL cholesterol and lowering levels of the good HDL cholesterol is your carbohydrate intake and your sugar intake that is going to raise insulin. It is insulin that is going to be a key driver of cholesterol. So it's not a focus on saturated fat. We need to be keeping our focus on our carbohydrate intake, on our sugar intake, and trying to keep our insulin levels stable throughout the day. And if we follow a diet over many years, and we can change this over a reasonably short period of time, that is driving high levels of insulin in the body. And for a long period of time, if insulin levels are high, and we could end up in a position where we've got what we call insulin resistance, i.e. our cells are not responding to insulin and it's driving higher levels of glucose in the body. This is not going to be good for helping to keep your cholesterol levels under control. So for me, I'm focused on carbohydrate, starchy carbohydrates, and overall sugar intake as the most important marker. And I'm not thinking about reducing eggs that have very good fats in them, a very, very good source of protein. And if you up your protein levels, you're actually going to be helping to keep your blood glucose and insulin levels balanced and not sending them sky high or yo-yoing throughout the day. If you do take statins, of course, they do come with some side effects, and maybe you're taking them and you feel absolutely fine. But something that isn't usually mentioned by doctors is the impact that statins also have on another very important compound in the body. And it's something that's called coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10. CoQ10 is found in abundance in heart tissue. It helps to create energy in the body, and of course we need an abundance of energy in our heart tissue to keep our heart pumping all the time. So it's really, really important that we think about how we're going to keep levels of CoQ10 up. CoQ10 is also an antioxidant in the body. So when I'm thinking of how do we make sure we're thinking about keeping our heart disease risk low, I'm also thinking about homocysteine, as I mentioned, and I'm also thinking about levels of CoQ10. If you take statins, again, you can do your own research about this. If you take statins, the pathway to lowering cholesterol is an identical pathway that lowers the production of CoQ10 in the body. So if I have clients that are taking statins, I am also immediately advising them to be taking CoQ10, because you potentially going to have lower levels of CoQ10, and CoQ10 is needed to keep the heart muscle pumping well, and it's an important antioxidant. So have a think about that. And again, if you need any more information, do contact me. So what is my healthy approach for cholesterol in the body? We absolutely need healthy fats. There is plenty of research out there that shows when we're eating what I call more of a Mediterranean style diet, when we're eating oily fish, nuts and seeds, eating avocados, having good levels of olive oil in the diet, not just a little, grease, slightly greasing the pan before you fry anything. No, good levels of cholesterol. I drizzle olive oil I drizzle olive oil all over my salads. We use in our family an abundance of olive oil. It has been shown in research to lower LDL cholesterol, and the other fats have been shown to help balance levels, help to raise HDL and lower the LDL cholesterol. So really, really important. As I've already mentioned, you need to look at your intake of starchy carbohydrates. If you've got high cholesterol, the first thing to focus on is eliminating refined carbohydrates, but look very closely at all your starchy carbohydrate intake. You know, do you eat much bread? Do you eat pasta? What's your intake of rice like? Do you eat lots of bananas, lots of potatoes? These starchy carbohydrates are potentially driving high levels of glucose, driving high levels of insulin, and won't be helping you to naturally rebalance your cholesterol levels in the body. So watch the starchy carbohydrates. Make sure you're getting plenty of good essential fats in the diet. These fats are not going to drive bad cholesterol. They're going to be helping to rebalance your cholesterol overall. It's absolutely fine to be eating some meat and a little bit of dairy. I'm not saying you're going to go out there if you've got high levels of cholesterol and start whacking in loads of saturated fat. Focus more on eating good quality meats, varying your protein intake, having some turkey, eating lots of white fish, seafood, the oily fish, eating pulses, eating a little bit of goat's cheese maybe. It's not just about, and eating the eggs as well. So we need our protein content. It's really important. The more protein we put in the diet and have protein with every meal, it slows the speed that the glucose and the carbohydrate content is released into the bloodstream. You get more of a drip feed effect. And of course, proteins keep us fuller for longer. But do make sure your vegetable intake is very, very high. You know, I talk a lot about 10 a day and variety and colour and diversity, because these vegetables, not only are they providing the antioxidants that's going to have a beneficial effect on helping to stop plaque and unhealthy cholesterol build up on the walls of the artery, but of course, the vegetables are good sources of soluble and insoluble fibre, and we know when we have good levels of soluble fibre, then we can actually excrete excess cholesterol from the body. I didn't say earlier on actually that cholesterol is used to make bile, and bile is required for the breakdown of fats in our body, hence why it comes through the gut in that way. So if we don't have enough cholesterol, we don't have enough bile, we may struggle to actually digest and break down our fat, so we may get digestive symptoms. And with the cholesterol that's coming through in bile, if we don't want it all to be reabsorbed into the bloodstream, then some of it will bind to soluble fibre and we can help excrete it from the body. I do think eating some oats in the form of porridge could be a good thing to do, because oats are a great source of soluble fibre. So that might be something to think about if you're trying to watch your cholesterol levels. Watch fruit. Fruit has high levels of fructose, some of the fruit, and too much fructose is also a contributory marker for insulin resistance. So watch your fruit intake. It's more about the vegetables and not eating high quantities of fruit overall. So I hope that's helped to give you a bit of an insight about cholesterol. We shouldn't demonize it. We need it. We need cholesterol. We need to think about whether we've got good levels of HDL, not too much LDL. It's not about taking all fats out of your diet. And we need to put far more emphasis thinking about the starchy carbs and sugars, thinking about testing for homocysteine if you're concerned about heart disease overall. I'd look at homocysteine levels. And just before I go, when I come back in the next few weeks and moving into November, I am going to be running a 14-day paid program run through Facebook in a closed group that is going to be called an autumn cleanse. Reset your gut, mind and body. I was running a program that I had to cancel back in April when we were in lockdown and when food was hard to buy and people's focus wasn't on it. So it's going to be an autumn cleanse. Cleanse your gut, mind and body. I will be giving you 14-day meal planners and recipes, telling you foods to avoid, foods to be eating. I'm going to be giving you naturopathic lifestyle advice to calm the mind and help to reduce your stress levels. I will be giving you symptom checklists that you can look at your symptoms before you start the 14-day program and compare it at the end. I'll be setting up a WhatsApp group so we can all work together, share our experiences, share information with each other, so it's a supportive group. And I'll be checking in with you most days, giving you more in advice, answering your questions as we go along the program. So my program information is going to be coming out about that in the next few days, so please look out for that and do sign up for it. It's going to be fun, 14-day program. It's not going to be too restrictive. I think you'll be a little bit surprised. I don't want you to think about this as being some major detox and fast. There's going to be some really nutritious, lovely recipes, and I hope you join me on that program. So I'll be back on Tuesday the 20th. I'll still be posting in here over the next 2 weeks, but I'll be back doing my live on the Tuesday the 20th of October. Take care everyone, and I'll catch up with you soon.